Well, hello tubers, hope you're doing well wherever you are in this crazy YouTube universe. Today I figured I'd tackle the bear question. Talk about the bare necessities of the bears in the wilderness because of the latest really big attack of grizzlies that occurred in Bella Coola.
A horrific bear attack that sent 4 people to hospital, including 3 young children, is sending shockwaves through a small town in north central BC.
On the mid-coast of British Columbia. In fact, actually, Bella Coola is one of the few places in British Columbia I've never been to for some odd reason. I've been to some really hard-to-get places, but never, for some reason, I got to get around to it sometime. In fact, I actually know somebody that's living in Bella Coola at the moment. But getting back to the bear story.
Yeah, good morning, Sonia, Jason. This can only be described as a very terrifying scene in the central coastal community of Bella Coola. And it involved elementary school students in grades 4 and 5 who were out on a field trip Thursday afternoon. The group encountered the bear around 1 o'clock on a trail near Highway 20 and Exalta School. And BC Emergency Health Services says 2 people are in critical condition, 2 in serious condition.
Now, it's a tragedy for the people involved, especially the children. And so far, I don't believe anybody has died. But these things are rare. That's the takeaway from all of this. And, you know, I got some bear credibility in the sense that I grew up in the Yukon, surrounded by bears. And we didn't just live in the capital city of Whitehorse. We actually had a cabin that was completely off-grid. Not like cabins today that have satellite TV and electricity. No, we had a cabin in the wilderness with a big cast iron stove and kerosene lanterns and an outhouse outside. And guess what? It was fine in the summer, it was fine in the winter. In fact, in the winter, you didn't even have to deal with bears because they were all denned up. One small blessing for those who have bear hysteria. But it's not only a national story, but an international story. And I can tell a lot about who you are, how you react to these stories. Because generally, city slickers have this incredible fear of bears. Now, I will fear bears when I have a reason to fear bears. It's kind of like when I used to work around extremely violent, predatory men in the maximum security prison industry. I was pretty chill until I had a reason not to be, because otherwise you go crazy. But a lot of people never learn to master that skill. But even where I'm at here, this is Fraser River's over here, and I'm in a fairly rural area, and there are bears that come through here, and I don't even have bear spray. No, but if I was gonna be in a bear area, I would probably be carrying bear spray. At least most of the time I do. But I recall growing up in the Yukon when the original Whitehorse City dump, it was kind of up on the top of the hill, kind of near the end of Range Road, if memory recalls. It's only about a mile or 2 from where our house was. And I remember going there with my dad, and we'd be chucking garbage out. And I was like maybe 8 or 10 years old, throwing trash out the back of the truck, and the whole truck is surrounded by bears. Black bears, brown bears. It's just a freaking country bear jamboree. And they're there because the garbage is there. And, you know, it was just, you know, normal. You know, and I had enough sense to not approach the bears, not feed the bears, not to mess with the bears, just let the bears do what the bears do. The problem actually got so bad that the city dump had to be relocated and fenced in with an electric fence. So now it's off the Alaska Highway, several miles away. So, but my father actually even worked studying grizzly bears in Kluane National Park in the Yukon. And he would chase them around with a helicopter and tranquilize them and see what their range was and study, you know, what they did. And this was in 1969. So I was actually just in Kluane this spring. So And when I was in Kelowna, I didn't have bear spray or anything this time, but I was in some areas that had bears, and it was the time when they're coming out of their dens, so they're a bit hungry. So I just, don't wander too far off into the bush, and that way I can at least get back into the car sooner rather than later. But part of the problem with bear attacks, even though they're so rare, is that they often occur in places where it's hard to get medical help, which just compounds the ability to survive it if it's borderline and you can't get proper medical attention. As rural Canada is rural, especially here in British Columbia. We've got a lot of mountains and natural formidable barriers that make it difficult to get healthcare when things go wrong. So that's part of the problem, but I think humans have this natural fear of being eaten. It's like the shark hysteria. I don't think that Jaws, for example, wouldn't have been such a hit if humans didn't fear being eaten by something in the water, right? And that's the way humans are. We'd rather be the apex predator. But people do not put the risks in proper perspective. The odds of you coming here to British Columbia and being attacked by a brown bear or a spirit bear or a grizzly bear is low. It's very low. In fact, the odds of you having an injury on your way to British Columbia, either driving to the airport or taking a shuttle at the airport or driving your rental car here in British Columbia, way higher. But humans are really good at hysteria, and they're really bad at gauging true risk. In fact, I ride a sport motorcycle. Hour for hour, riding a sport motorcycle in an urban city, much more dangerous hour per hour than spending time in the wilderness and being attacked by a bear. Bears are part of the natural environment. They were here before we were, and you just need some common sense. Don't leave trash out, and don't feed them. But I'm always amazed at people who come here that have this incredible bear fear. It's typically Europeans and Filipinos. I've had conversations with Filipino campers, and when they camp, they come in a big crowd and they cook up a storm, and they cook some amazing food. And there's been times where I've had to have a conversation and say, hey, look guys, you guys are having a great time, I get it, but sun's going down. I really, really suggest you throw your trash out and put your food away, and you lock it up in airtight containers and put it in your car, and have a great night. And they go, well, why? We want to leave the food out all night, and oh yes, okay, I know what you want to do, but there are bears. And then suddenly their eyes grow big. Bears? Yes. Bears live in the woods. And it's the city slicker kumbaya social justice warriors that do a lot of disservice to bears, because you will see after this attack that the activists that still want to ensure that the hiatus of the grizzly bear hunt will continue to be on hiatus, because what about the bears, the lovely bears? Hey, look, they're beautiful creatures, I get it, but some of the bears, they have to be harvested. It's like fish from the sea or trees in the forest. You can harvest some of them. They are part of the natural resources. So I can't see a problem with harvesting if the numbers are correct. There has been times where certain species decline and certain species increase, and it's always a balance. It's kind of like with the cougars, which I fear a lot more here in the forest than the bears. But if there's too many deer, well, that can support a lot of cougars. And then when something happens to the deer population with cold winters or famine, then their numbers drop, and then the cougar numbers drop. There's an ebb and a flow, and there's a delayed reaction time on these numbers, but generally it's the feel-good, do-gooder liberals, activists that don't spend much time in the forest, that are helicopter overhead for some reason, and they want to make sure that, oh, you're never going to hunt a bear. Of course, they don't want you to hunt anything, no matter how abundant it is. But hunting and extracting resources from the forest is often a very sustainable activity, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I will say this, for those of you who have also tried eating bears are like the goats of the forest. They eat everything, and they eat a lot of dead things. They eat vegetation, roots, berries, and other animals. They're not the best tasting. In fact, if you're gonna make sausage or something out of bear, you're gonna mix something else into it, because it's generally nasty. Okay, just say it. It's not a food you'd really want to eat, but it's a food you could eat. But generally nasty. In fact, even mountain lion, or as we call them, cougars here. I have not tried cougar, but I have it on good source that not very good tasting either. But I just figured I'd weigh in on the bear hysteria, because it's overhyped. People don't realize how safe the forests are in terms of your odds of being attacked by anything. But it does happen from time to time. But the media loves sensationalism, and it feeds into the human fear factor of humans being attacked by large predatory animals in the forest. You know, many a good story has been written with that premise. So anyway, folks, don't fear the animals. Put your comments down below. Talk to you soon. Over and out.
Forever high, low, always been the bad one, riding just to feel light, screaming, dreaming, feeding fire. We've got that something, hearts on fire. I'm dripping, tripping on your pale lights. Me and you forever blind. You drive me crazy, baby. Ow. You make the moon blue, baby. I'm yours. Yeah, you breathe fire, baby. Ow. You make me howl, yeah, baby. I'm yours. Stay forever wild, young until the end, swaying on the edge. Stay forever fire, burn me to my core, babe. We're made of gold.
Can go to figure out what we've done, what we need to do. Yeah, I got you, I got you, I got you.